install the encoders on the carriage. This is the carriage encoder, and it mounts in the back of the machine. So this is the carriage that comes with the Grace frame. This is the carriage that comes with the float frame. They're a little bit different. If you can take a look here at these wheels, you can see that these wheels are chrome. And then look at these over here. Grace wheels are kind of fancy. They look like mag wheels. Just notice that there's a difference, and we have to do something a little different on each one. So the first thing you do on the Grace, which we'll install first, is you take the screw loose. It's got some Loctite in it, and so you have to break it loose. So I've taken the wheels off, and if you look at this wheel hub, you can see that it sticks out a lot on this side, and it doesn't stick out any on this side. Okay, the part that sticks out goes against the bracket. So I'm just going to set them that way. And then with your encoders, you get a bag of some longer bolts. And you've got a spacer, which some people just call a washer. So you take your encoder. There's a side that has one hole, and there's a side that has an adjustment. So you put the longer bolt through the hole. You put the spacer on. You put the wheel on with the long part towards the carriage, and then you start screwing it in. There you go, that's in. So on this side, we have a little adjustment. So you take your bolt, you put it through the slot, you put the spacer on. Can you see the spacer here? Then you put the wheel on with the long hub towards the bracket, and then you tighten that on. We're almost done. So on this one that doesn't get adjusted, you just tighten her down. And then you want to make sure that the wheel rolls. If we forget to put that spacer in there, the wheel will be solid and won't roll. So now this one over here just self-locates because you've got this one tight, and then you tighten this one. You make sure it rolls, and you're done. If you take a close look at this encoder here, you can see how it works. It's spring-loaded. It has this little stop pin that makes it so that this encoder doesn't swing wildly when you pick up the carriage. So when you're going to put it onto the frame, you're going to want to carefully set it on the wheels in front, and then you set it down onto the frame in the back. And the encoder will self-adjust so it tracks on the track. And that's all we need to do for this type of carriage. We'll try the other kind of carriage over here. Okay, now we're going to put the encoder onto the carriage for the float frame. And if it has these chrome wheels, all you need is the encoder. You'll notice this is a slightly different type. The other encoder was longer, the mounting bracket. This one is short, and you may be shipped one that is a little slightly different shape. But the idea here is that this can pivot on this axle of this wheel, and so you want to get it in the right position and then tighten it down so it doesn't pivot. But the only way you can do that is when you've got it installed on the frame. So what you want is on this type that's curved like this, you want this little point right here to be barely above the track on your frame. Okay, now we're ready to install it. Bear in mind that this type of encoder will work on the Grace frame just as well as it works over here. And the other type encoder will work over here as well. There's lots of each of these different encoders in the field, so we're showing you how to do both of them. You take out the bolt, which is a short bolt, and you take the longer bolt that comes in the little bag with the encoders. You put the bolt through there. You put the wheel with the fat side hub, the hub that's longer, towards the frame. There's no spacer needed. And there you go. You just tighten that up. Okay, and so when you've put this on your frame, you want to adjust this pivot so that this point right here is just barely above the track. And that'll give the pressure of the spring here so that the encoder rolls properly. So let's tighten that up. And now let me show you an adjustment that you can make on your encoder to make it push harder. See right here, there's a little tab and it says more pressure with an arrow that way. So if you loosen this screw and push this tab that way and then tighten it, the encoder will push down with more pressure. So here we go. Let's loosen it, push it that way, and tighten it. So see, we're now quite slanted forward, and it has a whole bunch more pressure down. If we want to loosen the pressure, we go back this way. See, now it's not pushing very hard. So you don't want to overdo it with this pressure because there's O-rings right here on the encoder. These black things, they're separate O-rings. And if you're pushing too hard, you'll deform the O-rings and you'll have flat spots in your encoder wheel. So I like this angle here because it gives it a good amount of pressure. Okay, and then if you're putting it onto the frame, you of course put the front wheels on first and then you lower the rear onto the frame and the encoder will automatically position.